Sam, you've got to line up your big serve because you've really got to find out here exactly how much we've spent so far. That's one point. That may give us some idea of why this cancellation's come. I mean, I know for a fact they had 100 people employed at the Commonwealth Games office in Geelong, headed by Jerome Weimar. Weimar was said to be on a six-figure salary. They sent police officers, Sam, to Birmingham on a mission to find out how security would be at the Commonwealth Games. We are going to get eye-bleeding costs wasted that are going to be similar to tearing up $1 billion worth of a road project that never got built, I have a feeling.
Steve, when you go back over the budget papers from the last 2 years, so not the current budget, but the government's already spent over $250 million on the Commonwealth Games in preparing for things. And also there's other media organisations or outlets reporting tonight that when the 2018 games were held on the Gold Coast, they did their due diligence and in case things ever went poorly, did the numbers on what it would cost them to get out of their contract. And that was driving up to close to $1 billion in 2018. So you can imagine that it's going to be somewhere, and with rising costs, inflation and the such, that it's going to be somewhere in that vicinity. Now, we know those negotiations are going on in London tonight between the Commonwealth Games Federation and the Victorian government. But if we're looking at $1 billion to tear it up, that's $1 billion that's not going to be invested into roads. It's not going to be invested into sporting infrastructure. That's not going to be taken off the bottom line of an already blowing out budget. But I think bigger than all of that right now, and it has to be pretty big to be bigger than the current state of the debt in this state, to be honest with you, and the financial mismanagement, the blowouts. But the bigger problem that we now have is if you are a global organisation or a sporting organisation and you are looking to bring an event, a sports event, a tournament, anything of that like to Melbourne or to Victoria, you are going to seriously question whether it is a safe place to bring your event to do business and whether at any moment the Victorian government could pull the rug out from under your feet and cancel it without any sort of notice. I mean, we don't have the Boxing Day test locked in past next year. There is a question mark around that. We've just, in the recent couple of weeks ago, committed to the 2028 President's Cup. I mean, can we guarantee that we can't go ahead with the Commonwealth Games, but we can go ahead with funding a golf event in 2028? I want to see these events and more coming to Victoria. But right now, there is absolutely zero security in bringing a major event to this state.
Yeah, if you had the F1 contract in your drawer or global tennis for the Australian Open, you'd want to look at the fine print, Sam.
You certainly would. And look, I'd like to think those events are locked in long term, but you're certainly going to have to start to question whether, where do we go from here? What's next on the chopping block? I mean, you said that before. We are very, very lucky here in Melbourne that we have sporting infrastructure so close to the CBD that can deliver world-class events. We delivered the Commonwealth Games back in 2006. Everything is still there that was used for those games. Is the budget so bad that the games could not even be moved as an option from regional Victoria back to Melbourne where the infrastructure already exists? Was that money not available to run it in stadiums that are already there? I mean, this is a stuff up of epic proportions from this government. And there'll be people who say, well, the Commonwealth Games, what a waste of money. We shouldn't be spending $6 billion. They've also got to remember, and people need to remember, that it was only 12 months ago that the government used this as a campaign tool in regional cities for the November election. They're the ones that bought this. They claimed that, as you said in your opening editorial, they claimed they were saving the Commonwealth Games. Well, I have a feeling, unfortunately, for those athletes from the Commonwealth that have the opportunity to compete for their countries, unfortunately, and I hope this is not the case, but feel this could be a knife in the Commonwealth Games, and Daniel Andrews may have killed it for good.